The movie begins with Abigail practicing ballet in an empty theater. Meanwhile, a group of criminals is getting ready to attack her at home by shutting down all the security cameras and a sniper getting on the roof. When Abigail leaves the theater, her driver gets her in the car, unaware the criminals have put a tracker under it. As soon as the car gets moving, so do the kidnappers. Meanwhile, the hacker opens the house's doors and 3 of the criminals sneak into Abigail's bedroom to hide behind the furniture. The woman realizes they'll be kidnapping a child and protests since she usually doesn't mess with kids, but the others tell her to deal with it. Soon, Abigail arrives home and gets on the bed, so the criminals attack her. A guy tries holding her down, but Abigail stabs his hand with a pencil. The other man covers her mouth while the first guy tries to punch her, but the woman stops him from hurting the kid. Then, she injects Abigail with a sedative to put her to sleep. The other half of the team is waiting outside and warns those in the house that there's a car incoming. While the sniper keeps the incoming car under his watch, the trio puts Abigail in a bag and sneaks out through a window. As they cross the garden and reunite with the sniper, the alarms activate and they have to run. Fortunately, the last 2 criminals pick them up just in time and they escape. During the ride, they check Abigail's pulse to make sure she's fine and blindfold her. Eventually, they make it to their destination, an abandoned mansion outside the city. There they meet Lambert, the guy who hired them. After they handcuff Abigail to a bed, Lambert reminds the group of the rules. They can't share any names or backstories, and they can't get intimate with each other. It's a 24-hour job, so they must babysit Abigail until her rich dad sends the $50 million. Lambert doesn't reveal the dad's identity, but he collects everyone's phones to avoid getting tracked. Before leaving, he gives each team member a code name. Afterward, the team gets some drinks together. Joey mocks Dean, who incorrectly guesses everyone's backstories, so she steps up to guess correctly. Frank used to be a detective, Peter is a mob enforcer, the hacker Sammy comes from money and is doing this for fun, Rickles is a former Marine sniper, and Dean is a sociopath driver. In return, Frank concludes Joey is a recovering addict. Then, Joey checks on Abigail, who complains the blindfold is too tight. Joey covers her face and takes the blindfold off. She also notices that the handcuffs are hurting her, so she recuffs her hands in front. Since Abigail is crying, Joey explains they won't hurt her and only want the money, so Abigail makes her make a pinky promise. Abigail also tells her that they made a mistake because her father doesn't care about her and says she's sorry for what will happen to them. Worried, Joey rejoins the group and tells Frank that Abigail's father is a violent man. Frank dismisses it, but he goes to check on the child later. He's shocked to see her without the blindfold and immediately covers his face while pointing his gun at her until she swears she didn't see him. Then, Frank presses her until she says her dad is Christophe Lazar. Freaking out, Frank runs back to the group and announces that he's leaving. The others demand an explanation, and Frank explains that the girl is Christophe Lazar's daughter, a dangerous and powerful crime boss. After arguing about what to do now, the group decides to stay for the money so they can later escape and start a new life. Later, Joey looks around the house and finds an old statue of a father and his child. She bumps into Rickles, who flirts with her but fails, and then says he doesn't trust the others, so they should watch each other's backs. Meanwhile, Sammy finds a room with a TV and is startled by a presence behind her, but it's just Dean. He has the nerve to try flirting with Sammy, who furiously kicks him out. Then, Dean wanders around the house and enters a dark corridor with tons of old pictures, including one with a girl who looks a lot like Abigail. Next, he goes to the basement kitchen where a door opens by itself. Confused, he enters the room and gets startled by a rat. As he tries to leave, an unseen presence grabs him by the legs and pulls him back.
Oh, shit! Ah!
Sammy hears his screaming and goes to the basement where she finds Dean sitting at the table. When she tries to approach him, his head falls and Sammy screams before puking. When the group arrives, they agree Sammy doesn't have the strength to do that. This entire scenario reminds them of Lazar's popular hitman named Valdez. Worried, they decide to check on Abigail and find her well in the room. Rickles is still scared of Valdez and wants to leave, but when he opens the front door, they're shocked to discover another barred gate. Peter tries to push it, triggering a security system that covers all the windows, meaning the group is now stuck inside. Joey realizes this is a trap, and Rickles checks on his weapon to find it gone. Joey rushes to Abigail and asks if she's seen anybody else, but the girl denies it. Abigail also shares that Frank threatened to harm her and that his real name was Valdez. Afterward, Joey meets Rickles, and they both conclude nothing makes sense here. They agree to look for a way out, but as Joey tries to leave the room, she hears a noise. Rickles is standing awkwardly, so she goes to check on him and is horrified to discover that he's been severely injured. His dead body falls in her arms, so she rushes downstairs. Furious, Joey aims her gun at Frank, accusing him of being Valdez and killing Rickles. Frank pulls out his gun too and says Joey's letting Abigail manipulate her. He asks Peter to do something about Abigail, so Peter goes to the room to kill her. Before he can shoot, Joey arrives and disarms him. Sammy and Frank also come, and an argument begins. Meanwhile, Abigail easily removes the handcuffs and stands up, using a ballet move to show her true face. She's a vampire. Abigail jumps on Peter to bite him, but Frank shoots her down. To everyone's shock, Abigail sits up as the wound heals itself. Joey shoots her too, but it's clear that bullets do nothing, so they run and lock the door. The group discusses what to do as they realize Abigail was Valdez all along. All the doors have magnetically sealed locks and shutters, so they can't be broken or hacked. Everyone's tense, and when Peter asks them to slow down, Frank grabs him by the neck, threatening to shut him up. In the end, Frank and Joey grab pool sticks to make steaks while Sammy looks for garlic in the kitchen. Joey doesn't help because she thinks killing Abigail would only make her dad mad at them. Once they're ready, the trio rushes into Abigail's room only to find it empty. Suddenly, they hear music, so they go into another room where they find Abigail dancing with Dean's body. At first, she pretends to be a sweet girl, but when Sammy attacks, Abigail jumps on her and sniffs the garlic, which does nothing. Frank is pushed off when he tries to help, but Peter manages to pick her up. However, Abigail easily throws him to the ground and takes the cross from his necklace, hitting his chest with it to make him bleed. Next, Frank tries to stab her from behind. However, Abigail quickly disarms him and stabs his leg instead. Giving up, the trio goes back downstairs where Joey helps them with their wounds. She reminds them that the injection did work when they kidnapped Abigail, and they still have a spare injection. They agree to split up, and whoever finds the girl first must inform Joey through their earpieces so she can surprise her with the injection. The group starts searching, and Sammy takes a dirty corridor where she's startled by bats. She falls into a pool that is full of rotting bodies, and she must crawl on them to get out. Meanwhile, Abigail surprises Peter, who runs away and locks the door. However, Abigail breaks the door and keeps chasing him with ballet moves. Peter is running as fast as he can when suddenly Frank opens a door and hits him, causing him to fall off the rail. Then, Abigail chases Frank, pushing him down the stairs before sitting on him. Joey tries to inject her, but Abigail hits her hand, sending the syringe flying through a locked gate. Sammy grabs Abigail and pulls her away, so the child retaliates by biting her arm. Then, Abigail grabs Frank by the leg and starts flying, only for Peter to tackle her and make her drop Frank. Peter holds Abigail down while Joey manages to get the injection quickly and sedates Abigail successfully. However, Sammy worries she'll transform because of the bite. Moments later, Abigail wakes up in a locked elevator. Joey says that if she reveals how to get out of there, they'll let her go. Instead, Abigail confesses that she planned everything and that Lambert works for her. She even knows all their real names and backstories. Sammy started her career by taking money from her rich parents. Peter worked for a crime family. Frank was an undercover detective who joined the illegal life, and Joey was a former army medic who was fired for becoming an addict. Everyone here wronged Lazar or his gang in some way, so Joey says Abigail kills her dad's enemies to make him love her. Abigail offers to let 2 of them live if they let her out, but when Frank suggests killing her, she changes the offer to only saving one of them. Peter and Joey point their guns at each other, but Frank explains Abigail is lying. When Peter tries to free her, Joey shoots him. Then, everyone leaves the room except Frank, who watches guard. After everyone's gone, Frank offers to release Abigail if she tells him the way out of the house. She tells him to pull a book in the library to open a secret door, but he still doesn't release her. So she breaks the door and is about to attack when Joey manages to let sunlight in, which burns off Abigail's hand. Then, she hides in the shadows to regrow it while Joey and Frank escape. The entire group makes it to the library and stands under the sunlight. Nothing happens to Sammy, so she's relieved. Frank pulls the book Abigail mentioned, but nothing happens because she lied too. While he throws a tantrum, Joey tries to break down the wall to no avail. She's run out of candy, so she's getting very anxious. Joey explains to Sammy that she left her son to get clean, and the plan was to use this job's money to go back to him and start over as a reset. Hearing this, Sammy has an idea. If they can find the power source, she can short the locks. The team splits into 2 and searches the house. Suddenly, Abigail plays music and takes control of Sammy, thanks to the bite. She transforms into a vampire and attacks Peter, biting his neck. Then, Abigail has fun making Sammy dance like she does. Eventually, Joey and Frank arrive, and when Sammy shows them her transformation, the duo immediately runs away. Sammy chases after them, and they make it to the library, where Abigail uses Sammy's voice to explain she hates that room because that's where her father turned her. Joey grabs a tray and reflects the sunlight, making Sammy's body explode. At that moment, a secret door opens, so Joey and Frank go through it despite thinking it's a trap. They find the control center and Lambert, who is also a vampire. Lambert grabs Joey by the neck while explaining everything. It turns out Abigail transformed him 2 years ago when she found out that he helped Frank. She threatened his family, so now he brings her father's enemies here so she can play. He's already notified Lazar too, and he's on his way to the mansion. Lambert wants to kill both Abigail and her dad, so he offers to turn Frank if he promises to help. Frank agrees, so Lambert knocks Joey out and bites Frank. Next, Lambert makes Frank drink his blood, and Joey wakes up to watch Frank painfully transform into a vampire. Afterward, Lambert tells Frank to attack Joey, but he stabs him with a stake instead, making Lambert explode. At that moment, Abigail arrives and tries to attack, but Frank overpowers her and drinks her blood. Joey uses the chance to deactivate the security measures and grabs her phone. But when she runs away, the exit is locked. While Frank finishes feeding on Abigail, Joey calls her son and leaves a heartfelt voicemail. Then, Frank finds Joey and pushes her into the library to smash her against the furniture. Joey tries to fight back, but Frank ends up grabbing her by the neck. He throws her down, but Abigail catches her just in time. Abigail explains she's too weak to defeat him alone and begs Joey to help her kill Frank, promising to let her go if she does. Frank approaches them, and the girls team up to start fighting him, but he's stronger than them. After he knocks down Abigail, he stabs Joey in the shoulder and gets her stuck on a pillar. Then, he bites Abigail again, as she raises her pinky to remind Joey of their promise. Once Abigail is down, Frank takes Joey off the stake and bites her neck before throwing her down. When she wakes up, Frank uses his powers to force her to pick up the stake and chase Abigail. However, Joey is pretending, so she turns around and pushes Frank, allowing Abigail to jump on him. She fights him again as she explains the powers take a while to develop, so he can't control or transform Joey yet. Meanwhile, Joey grabs the stake and pulls Frank down before stabbing him. Afterward, Joey is worried about transforming, but Abigail reassures her before letting her walk free. Suddenly, someone grabs Joey's shoulder. It's Abigail's father, Lazar. He wants to kill Joey, but Abigail protects her, saying Joey saved her life and was there for her when he wasn't. Lazar kisses Joey's hand and lets her go. In the end, Joey rushes back to the van and eats her last lollipop while driving away.